we were waiting for her to come off the medication. I'm waiting for her to open her eyes, and Morgan never woke up.
And I remember Kathy calling and saying, "Are you coming to the hospital today?" And I said, "Well, yeah, I was planning on coming." She said, "Can you come pretty soon?" And I said, "Well, yeah, you know." And she said, "Well, Mike just needs a friend right now."
And so I remember going into a room and just dropping to my knees, and there was a lot of people in there from church, and they said, "Mike, it's going to be okay. God's got a plan." And I remember how empty those words were. I mean, here my daughter's not responding. One of my best friend came up, Scott Branson, just showed up. He got on his knees with me.
I remember leaning over, and literally our heads were just on each other's shoulders. It's what it amounted to. And we were there for a little while, just crying together.
And as my sister told me, she said, "Mike, you have to understand, when the brain herniates into the brainstem," which is what began happening with Morgan. As the brain swells, it hits the top of the skull, and it has nowhere to go except down. And when the brain herniates into the brainstem, the body dies. And as my sister said, that's when they call organ donation, once that happens. So what ended up happening, we went down to the second floor, another MRI, and they couldn't wake Morgan up. And Gameltoff came in and she not up yet? Nope. You know what, she'll probably never wake up.
When the threat of death was less, but the chances of her being just a vegetable the rest of her life kept looking like that was greater and greater. Your prayers moved into a new stage, and not just God let her live, but God, we want her to really be alive, not just her heart beating, not just be able to lay there on the table.
The rest of that month, they put a feeding tube in Morgan. Go through some issues with insurance.
The doctor had advised us to put Morgan into some type of inpatient facility. And so we decided that we would go look at a few of the different facilities in the area, and then we also checked out some places that were not right in Knoxville. We'd pretty much ruled those out, and we prayed about it, and we just decided that God wanted us to keep our family together.
The insurance would only pay for her to go into a full-time facility, not a part-time facility, and I'm like, that's not logical. I mean, we're willing to bring her home and keep her at home at night, and then she would be at therapy during the day. And on Friday, they said, "No, we're not going to pay for it."
We knew without a doubt that Children's Rehab Center was the place that God intended her to go. So we started praying about it, and we found out exactly how much it was going to cost. And off the top of my head, I can't remember, but I remember it was thousands of dollars a week for her to go. And she would go from like 8 o'clock in the morning till about 3 o'clock in the afternoon. And I said, well, you know what? I know this is where she's supposed to go, and he's gonna work it out. Mike wasn't necessarily so sure that, you know, how that was gonna all work out, but I knew, and I said, you know, even if we had to pay, you know, take a second mortgage on our house, you know, I knew that that's where God wanted her to go. And I felt in my heart that's not what was going to happen, but I didn't know how he was going to work it out.
God, what are you doing? What are you doing to my family? I don't understand. What have I done? What have I done against you to make you so angry? I thought you were in control. You're almighty. You can stop this. And now Morgan, she's gonna die. Oh God, please, please. Oh God. I'm sorry. I am so sorry. You love her more than I do. You love her more than I do, God. I'm so sorry. Please forgive me, Father. Please forgive me, Father.
I had been talking with my pediatrician and asked if he could kind of help somehow and find out if there was any loopholes or anything, you know, that he could help as far as the insurance went. And he ended up calling the insurance company.
and said, here's this family, here's what they're going through. Can you look at doing an exception for the part-time facility? And the lady who was there that day, the physician that the request was taken to, was a part-time. She just happened to be there because someone else wasn't there that day. And she heard the request.
And she said, you know what, I have a disabled child, and absolutely, we will do this for you. And you know what? She said, I will take this case on personally. Every single paper that has to be approved will come through me.
And so we took her home right after Thanksgiving for our new life. A buddy of mine had come over, Scott had come over and made the dining room Morgan's bedroom in the house. And we had a hospital bed there and took her home. And on the way home, Morgan started crying. And my sister called them neuro cries, but she started crying, and it's only supposed to last a couple of days to a couple of weeks. And Morgan cried for 2.5 months. And I can't describe the cry, because the only way I can describe it is, imagine an 8-year-old that had fallen off a bicycle and is screaming out of control in pain. And that's how Morgan cried all the time, unless I gave her chlorohydrate, which knocked her out. But that's how we got her to sleep at night.
I remember watching Mike pick her up every morning and carry her out to the car and talking to her as he put her in the car. It was so special. It was like their special little time every morning. He was so gentle and so special with her. That was like their special time, and he kept talking to her about when you get better, what we're going to do, and those sort of things. It was really special, and most people did not see her at all during this time.
Now we had Morgan at home, feeding tube, trying to keep her alive, and Morgan is screaming, sweating. I mean, sweating profusely. I'm trying to use a toothbrush and brush her. It was horrendous, just the day activity to keep her alive, and it was taking a toll on the rest of the family as well.
Her eyes were so unusual, and it was almost a little scary to look at her because they weren't normal. She had beautiful blue eyes before, and you almost, when you looked at her, you looked through her. And Kathy and I talked about it. We didn't know what was wrong. We didn't know why her eyes were different.
We waited for her to show us signs of neurologic improvement, and there were times we were concerned about her vision, about her hearing, and just really how well she would be able to function cognitively.
They really believed that she would probably not be able to see because of where there was so much brain damage in the brain stem, but also where it occurred in the other parts of the brain. They just believed that she would not be able to see.
She wasn't able to relax. She wasn't able to speak. And we had her in our Children's Corner program, where she was getting intensive therapy each day, and it was very, very difficult for her. She was in so much discomfort from her muscle stiffness that during the therapy sessions each day, she would cry to the point where it was just impossible to console her.
Through that time was also a very dark time for me, because see, daddies are supposed to fix things. That's what daddies do. Daddy's supposed to fix things for their daughters. They take care of their families. That's what daddies do. And I couldn't fix this one. God, this burden is too much. I can't take it anymore. The crying. Father, to watch Morgan, and she is in so much pain. Father, I had a dream the other night. Father, I was going to put Morgan in the Camry, and we were going to drive down Pellissippi Parkway. Father, I was going to drown with her as I took my last breath. Father, I pray that you would have forgiven me. I'm in so much pain. I just can't take it anymore, God. I need to know you're in control. I need to know you're still there. Please, Father. I can't do it anymore. And what we didn't know is God's healing was right around the corner, because less than 2 weeks later, she smiled. Thursday before Christmas. It was a great day, man. We were partying, it was a good day in the Moeller house. Her first expression to us in 2 months. The next Thursday, I was at home, and Morgan, Luke, our 2-year-old, goes over and sticks a goldfish cracker in Morgan's mouth. And Kathy sees it happening and goes, Morgan can't eat, she can't swallow. So she goes in it because Morgan's gonna choke. And Morgan starts eating the goldfish cracker. And we give her another goldfish cracker. Now people were getting excited, man. I mean, we're pretty pumped up. And she eats more of the goldfish crackers, and she's smiling. She's still screaming on and off. And I get on the floor, and Kathy's behind Morgan, because you would have to hold her because her arms would be out of control, and you'd have to hold her down. And I'm like, Morgan, can you move your foot? And she pushed her foot against me for the first time. And she did it again, and I kind of faked that I fell down, and she laughed. And on Sunday morning, I'm getting ready to go to church. I'm getting all the kids corralled. Kathy usually would stay home with Morgan. And Kathy goes, Mike, come here. And I come down the stairs, and she goes, come here, listen. And I go, what? And she goes, and Morgan goes, shh. That's all she did. Another celebration began. Man, this is Sunday morning. I could have ran to church that day. By the time I get home now, she's saying syllables. And that night, she finally said, Mama and Dada. It was a good night. So the next morning, Monday, we go to Children's Corner.
And she was